Yo, what is going on, guys, and welcome back to another Lost Ark build video. And today I'm finally going to be covering SOULFIST. I'm sorry that this video has taken me a while. There are a couple of different factors. IRL, I've been very busy. I've also been streaming a lot, by the way. If you guys haven't checked out my Twitch, I'm streaming there almost every day, at least 4 to 5 times a week, so go ahead and check that out. Link is in the description of each and every single one of my videos. So in case you guys have questions about this build for SOULFIST in general, or any other Lost Ark related thing and anything I can help with, the easiest way is to reach me out at my Twitch. But anyway, back to SOULFIST. This class is very challenging to learn, and it took me a while to test a bunch of things, do a lot of research before I felt comfortable making this guide. I also want to give you guys a warning that SOULFIST is a very late game class. It is not very easy to play early on. You will struggle, but if you do manage to tough it out, it's just like War Dancer, you will be rewarded with one of the strongest classes in the entire game. Very satisfying to play, fast-paced, and two very distinct play styles. So take this with a grain of salt. You might not like SOULFIST at first, but if you manage to get them to 1370, I guarantee you will start to enjoy them, especially once you get into relic gear. But without further ado, let's just get straight into the build. The good thing about SOULFIST is that as of the latest balance patch, you actually use the exact same skills for both builds, Robust Spirit and Energy Overflow. So I'm going to be going over those first. The abilities you want are going to be Flash Step with excellent mobility and Victory Shout, Bolting Crash with Volant, I have no idea how to pronounce that, Fighting Spirit Enhancement and Tough Shoulder, Energy Release with Quick Prep, Tenacity, or honestly any of the middle tripods are a good fit. Just pick the one that's good for the fight. If you're doing Vulcan, the Cleanse one is actually really good for Lugarud or the Wolf Boss. And of course, Ready Attack. This is the most important tripod. Then you have Merciless Pummel with Hard Hitter, Cold Hearted, and Double Up, Crippling Barrier with Quick Prep, Hard Hitter, and Keen Judgment, Heavenly Squash with Hard Hitter, Harsh Training, and Exquisite Attack, Force Orb with Quick Prep, Powerful Wave, and Scattering Wave, and Energy Blast with Tenacity, Weak Point Detection, and Ferocious Strike. The gems for these skills are also going to be the same for both builds, and that is a CDR and a damage gem for Heavenly Squash, Force Orb, Merciless Pummel, Crippling Barrier, and Energy Blast, and a CDR gem for Energy Release. Now let's go over the Energy Overflow build, which has gotten a lot of popularity recently. What this class engraving does is make it so that you cannot go below 1 energy. If you've played SOULFIST before, you know that if you actually use up all of your energy, aka your spirit or your mana bar, whatever, you actually can't use any of your abilities until it fully recovers. So this is going to prevent that from happening. However, this does mean that whenever you go into hype mode, you won't get any increased energy generation, but you will have a damage increase by 5, 10, or 15% based on your class engraving level if your energy is below 30%. So basically, you can't go into 0, and you're always going to be spamming your skills so that you can stay below 30% energy to get that damage buff. For your stats on Energy Overflow, it can be a little complicated, but the general rule of thumb is essentially that if you're at 1445 or below, you want to settle for a 60-40 split between Swift and Crit. So essentially you can go for 1200 Swift and 800 Crit. That means you want a Swift and Crit necklace, a Crit earring, and the rest of your accessories are going to be Swiftness. However, once you hit 1490 and you have access to a bracelet, which we still don't have in the game, but once they are released and you are able to get one, you want to try to get one with Crit on it, and once you do that, then you can swap your stats to mainly Swift and Crit. So you'll have 1500 plus Swiftness and 500 Crit, which essentially means you want a Crit Swift necklace and Swift on the rest of your accessories. Your rotation for a Hype 3 playstyle, which is what you're most likely going to be using, is as follows. You're first going to activate Hype 1 and 2, then do 2 Flash Steps to buff up your Bolting Crash, and then finally do a 3rd Flash Step into Hype 3 into your Awakening, so you can make use of both Bolting Crash and Flash Step buffs for it, and you're just going to instantly cancel your Awakening into an Energy Release, and then do all of your DPS abilities, Merciless Pummel, Energy Blast, Force Orb, Heavenly Squash, and Crippling Barrier as a filler while the rest of your abilities come off cooldown. For your tripods, the most important ones are Ready Attack and Quick Prep for Energy Release, Double Up for Merciless Pummel, Exquisite Attack for Heavenly Squash, and Quick Prep for Crippling Barrier and Force Orb. For your Awakening, you're going to want to use Decimation Ray, and this is not even used for the damage. The main reason this Awakening is used is to cancel it quickly so that you can proc the 2-piece Dominion set bonus. For your runes, you're going to want a Conviction Conviction Rune on Force Orb, and a Judgment Rune on Heavenly Squash to proc the buff. Gale Wind on Energy Blast, Merciless Pummel, and Crippling Barrier. Rage on Energy Release. Quick Recharge on Flash Step, and Bleed on Bolting Crash. For your engravings, at first you're going to want Adrenaline level 3 and Energy Overflow 1. Then at legendary accessories, you're going to want Grudge 3, Adrenaline 3, Raid Captain 3, and Energy Overflow 1. And then at relic accessories, you're going to want to go for Grudge 3, Raid Captain 3, Keen Blunt 3, Increase Mass, or Curse Doll 3, either one work, Adrenaline 2, and Energy Overflow 1. However, one of the biggest problems with SOULFIST is the huge lack of crit, so alternatively, you could go Grudge 3, Raid Captain, Keen Blunt, Adrenaline 3, and Energy Overflow 3 if you want a clean 5-3 setup, but a perfect setup would be Grudge 3, Raid Captain 3, Keen Blunt 3, Adrenaline 3, Increase Mass, or Curse Doll 3, and Energy Overflow 1. However, for that, you are going to need Ancient Accessories or a 9-7 stone, and I can't really expect people to have 9-7 stones. Sure, some are lucky, but 90% of people won't have them, and you also need 2 legendary engraving books. So for now, I would just recommend settling on a 5-3 setup. For your gear set at 1370, you're going to want the 5-piece preordained crit rate Argo set. Then at 1415, you can swap over to the 4-piece Demon Beast and 2-piece preordained set if you want to, but you certainly don't have to if you still want the extra crit. And finally at 1445, now that Vicus is coming out this week, you'll be able to do Vicus Normal, which will still get you hard mode materials, just half of them, but you'll eventually want to progress into building relic sets, and you're going to want the 6-piece Dominion set for Energy Overflow. For your cards, as always, you're going to want Lost Wind Cliff early on, and then later on you're going to want to transition into Light of Salvation. Moving on to Robust Spirit, what this class engraving does is that whenever you go into hype mode, you instantly go to level 3 hype. You instantly recover your energy, and you also recover your energy 200% faster while you're inside of hype mode, and your damage is increased by 10, 20, and 30% respectively based on the level of your engraving. So this makes you into a burst class. While Energy Overflow is constantly spamming their skills and not really relying on crit to do DPS, you highly rely on doing a bunch of damage in very short bursts. So because of that, you're going to want to focus on spec for your stats. You're going to want 1500 spec and 500 crit. So that's a spec crit necklace and spec on the rest of your accessories. The rotation for this gameplay style is way simpler. You simply Bolting Crash, activate hype into Energy Release into all of your DPS abilities. So you do Energy Blast, Merciless Pummel, Heavenly Squash, Force Orb, and then Crippling Barrier as a filler until the rest of your DPS skills come back. Not that it doesn't do a lot of damage, but because it has such a long cast time, you can take advantage of that and let your abilities come off cooldown. Out of all these, the most important tripods that you're going to need are Ready Attack and Quick Prep for Energy Release, Double Up for Merciless Pummel, Exquisite Attack for Heavenly Squash, and then Weak Point Detection and Ferocious Strike for Energy Blast. For your Awakening, you can use either one, however, Spirit Bomb is kind of a meme. It is very common to whiff it completely, though I can't really recommend it, to be honest. The Decimation Ray is a lot faster and a lot more reliable. You don't have to hold it all the way, so if you want to just use Awakening for simple damage, then you can go ahead and use that. Using the Spirit Bomb also means that you can't really do like a full damage rotation when you're in hype mode because of the insanely long cast time. So you'd probably pop Bolting Crash and then go into hype 3, Energy Release, and then immediately activate Spirit Bomb and hope to God that you land it and that it crits. So it's up to you. You can use either one, but you know, just be aware of the consequences. For your runes, you're going to want Quick Recharge on Flash Step and Bolting Crash, Gale Wind on Energy Blast, Crippling Barrier, and Merciless Pummel, Rage on Energy Release, and Bleed on Heavenly Squash and Force Orb. It is not very common to see, but if you still want to use the Conviction Judgment Rune combo for increased cooldowns, you can still put them on Force Orb and Heavenly Squash respectively. For your engravings, you're going to want Adrenaline 3 and Robust Spirit 1 at first. Then when you get to legendary accessories, you're going to want Grudge 3, Adrenaline 3, Robust Spirit 3, and Spirit Absorption 1. And then finally, when you have relic accessories, you're going to want to go for Grudge 3, Robust Spirit 3, Precise Dagger 3, Keen Blunt 3, and Curse Doll 3, or Adrenaline 3. A little bit lower of a ceiling for damage versus a more consistent crit. For your gear sets, at first you're going to want the 5-piece Preordained Crit Rate Argo set. And at 1415, you're also going to want the 4-piece Demon Beast and 2-piece Preordained set. And then finally, once you're 1445, you're going to want to aim for the 6-piece Hallucination set. For your cards, again, early on, you're going to want Lost Wind Cliff, and then later on, you're going to want Transition into Light of Salvation. Now, last but not least, we have a Chaos Dungeon build, and these are just the skills that I use for it. I use Flash Step with excellent mobility, Victory Shout, Shadowbreaker with Predator, weak point detection, and slow pace, Energy Blast with tenacity, focus, and ferocious strike, Deadly Finger with wide hit, burning hands, and light speed hit, Crippling Barrier with quick prep, hard hitter, keen judgment, Tempest Blast with charge enhancement, energy explosion, and demolition, Lightning Palm with prepared attacker, wide hit, and merciless hands, and Force Orb with quick prep, powerful wave, and scattering wave. There are definitely some other variations. You can change up some tripods if you wanted to, you can change out some skills if you wanted to. This is just what works for me. It's what works best for me, to be honest. But for Chaos Dungeons, all you need, honestly, is Crippling Barrier and Tempest Blast. Everything else is kind of up to taste. So there you go, guys. That is my SOULFIST build. I hope that you guys found it useful or at least entertaining. Again, feel free to follow me on Twitch and come by the stream. Odds are that when you guys see this video, I will be live. So click the link in the description, come to my Twitch chat. It's always nice to hang out, and you guys can ask me any other questions there. Or if you want, you can just join the Discord. I'm literally always on Discord, so if you have any questions, feel free to @ me or DM me, and I'll be happy to help. But with that, that concludes the series of builds for all the classes in Lost Ark as of right now. So I will be revising some older videos that do have some slight outdated information, and I'd love to hear from you guys what other types of videos you guys would like to see. And until then, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace and take care.